All right, stop. Before you buy a Mac Mini, I need 60 seconds of your time. Because right now, buying a Mac Mini today is one of the worst decisions that you can make in the Apple ecosystem. Now, I don't take that very lightly because the Mac Mini, it's probably one of the best machines I have ever owned. Genuinely, I really mean that it is a great machine. But a great machine and great timing are two different things. Now, next week is Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, and like every year before it, it is primarily a software event, but the rumors going into this year's WWDC, they are loud, and they are pointing at the possibility of new hardware alongside this software announcement. And near the top of that list, you guessed it, it is an M5 Mac Mini. Now, nothing is confirmed, but the signals, they are strong with this rumor, and if you are hovering over that buy button on apple.com, or you find yourself in a store looking to buy an M4 Mac Mini, I need you to pump your brakes because this is not the moment for you to do that. Now let's talk about what we know, what we can expect, and why the timing actually matters. Now let's establish where we are. The M4 Mac Mini launched in November 2024, and that means right now it's been on shelves for about 18 months of Apple's typical 18 to 24 month cycle for refreshes. So we are right on the knife's edge of getting a new piece of hardware. And to really understand why this moment even matters, you have to remember what the Mac Mini was before the M4 launched. This wasn't just a chip update. Apple completely redesigned the entire machine. Not only did we get a smaller footprint, it was more efficient, adding USB-C ports on the front here, adding 4 Thunderbolt ports on the back. It was a completely new form factor. It was genuinely impressive. Apple fit that level of compute in a 5x5 square. The M4 Mac Mini had finally earned its name. Now that's what makes the timing conversation right now so interesting. It's not because Apple's gonna be changing the form factor, though I would love to see a Mac Mini in space black. If you know, you know. It's gonna change what's inside. Now, more importantly, Apple's entire laptop lineup already features the M5 chip. MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, we have the M5 Pro and the M5 Max. Now, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman has already said that Mac Mini explicitly is expected to get a 2026 release. Now, that means that the Mac Mini is the next major Mac that has not been refreshed with Apple Silicon, meaning that the Mac Mini and even the iMac are near-term dominoes to fall, and one of them, as soon as WWDC, could get the M5. Now, if that doesn't get announced, the next window really is like sometime like you'll get a silent release over the summer, or maybe even in the fall, but it is weeks, not months, not a year. We're talking it's right around the corner. We're on the cusp of it. And WWDC, if the rumors are true, we're gonna see it here in just a few days. Now, there are several key upgrades coming along with the M5, but 2 especially are important, especially if you plan on pushing the GPU. Stick around, we're gonna talk about that next. Now, let me walk you through what the M5 Mac Mini will actually deliver, because these are just not spec sheet upgrade, guys. These are meaningful improvements happening across multiple categories, and some of them are gonna be more significant than you might actually even expect. Let's start with the M5 CPU, because on the base Mac Mini, we should see the familiar 10-core CPU, but here we're getting 4 super cores, which Apple calls their most powerful chips for single core performance, as well as 6 efficiency cores. Now, you could think of efficiency cores as the background workers, kind of KTLO, or keeping the lights on if you're in IT, as that they're always working in the background with the lowest power consumption available. This means that single core benchmarks from the M5 MacBook Pro, which is probably like the most most like-for-like comparison, because the M5 Mac Mini will be passive or actively cooled, you're gonna get somewhere in the neighborhood of about a 24% increase in single core performance than that of the M4, which is a solid, tangible step up. Now, on the M5 Pro version, we should see 15 CPU cores with 5 super cores, which is 1 more than the previous, or on the base level, and then 10 performance cores, which are designed for multi-threaded workflows. This should roughly translate to somewhere between 14 and 22% faster multi-core performance than the M4. So if you're doing heavy computation or heavy compilation work, running virtual machines, you are absolutely gonna see an uptick in performance. But let's be honest with each other here, because the CPU story, that's not even the big deal. What the big deal is, it's the GPU. Now, for video editing, motion graphics, 3D work, the GPU leap in the M5 generation is one of the most consistent improvements found in real-world testing of the MacBook Pro. The Mac Mini will inherit the same silicon with that. You're gonna get the same benefits. So if you're doing any type of creative work that touches the GPU, this means this generational gap between the M5 and anything before it, it will matter most to you. Now, in terms of available GPU configurations, we should see a 10-core GPU configuration for the base version, and then a 16-core GPU configuration for the Pro version. Now, in terms of the first upgrade that I teased earlier, this next one is significant. The M4 Mac Mini SSD speeds are roughly about 3,300 megabytes per second. When you compare that to the M5 MacBook Pro, which has the same storage controller, same SSDs, that should be in the M5 Mac Mini, you're getting double that, or around 6,500 megabytes per second. That is essentially double the storage throughput. Now, faster storage is great, but without context, it doesn't really matter. So what that means is that Apple's able to make the new 512 gigabyte SSD the standard default baseline that on the M5 machines, not just because it's a configuration update and Apple feels like give us something more, it's actually tied to the performance of the storage controller. So you need one in order to get the other. So if you edit directly off your internal storage, work with large photo libraries, or run apps that are constantly reading and writing from your SSDs, or say maybe working with large local models, which is one of the things that I believe is coming in the next version of macOS, you will absolutely feel the difference in your actual workflow, which is not just a benchmark. Now, speaking of AI, the second feature I teased here earlier with the M5 chips is coming up next. That includes dedicated hardware acceleration for on-device AI tasks. Apple's own figures put AI workloads at roughly 3.5 times performance faster on the M5 than compared to the M4. As Apple Intelligence features continue to expand, and we know they will because that's how it is, coming out of WWDC, the neural engine headroom on the M5 will compound over the life of the machine, meaning that buying an M4 right now means that you're starting with a meaningfully significant disadvantage if you were just to wait a few weeks, a few days until the M5 is available. Now, in terms of networking, the M5 MacBook Pro shipped with Apple's own brand new N1 networking chip. It's their first in-house wireless chip. It enables Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, which if you compare that to the M4 version of the Mac Mini, it's still running Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 if I'm not mistaken. Now, Wi-Fi 7 routers are becoming mainstream. They're not super expensive as they used to be. And if you're building or upgrading your own home network, buying a Mac with Wi-Fi 6E in 2026, you are behind the ball and you don't want to do that. Now, as a matter of fact, get subscribed if you want to see how I replaced Eero with Ubiquiti in my own house. But the N1 networking chip is one of those quiet additions you'll appreciate every single day. That is, unless Apple released a MacBook with cellular, because I sure as shit would use that all the time. I love my MacBook. I just wish that it had cellular. Who's with me? Let me know down in the comments below, guys. Now, the M5 Mac Mini is expected to support Thunderbolt 5, just like how the M4 version does today. But what's going to be different is the number of external displays and the refresh rate that you'll get on the base and on the Pro version. So let's talk about that next. The base M5 Mac Mini supports 2 external displays. You could run either 2 6K monitors or push one all the way up to 8K, which should cover most people's setup super cleanly. If you want to step up to the M5 Pro, you're going to get 3 6K monitors simultaneously, or 1 8K and a 5K alongside of it, for a machine that lives on your desk. That is a meaningful real-world upgrade over the M4 Pro. I don't know about you, but the expanded display support is one of the more practical day-to-day upgrades that you get when you go to the Pro. In terms of pricing, Apple pulled the initial configuration of 256 gigs from sale earlier this year and made the default configuration 512 gigs due to supply constraints around storage and SSD. Now, when Apple introduced the M5 MacBook Air and the M5 MacBook Pro, they did raise the price a little bit, but it's important to talk about why they raised that price and what that really means in context. You went from 256 to 512 gigs of storage, as well as getting faster RAM or unified memory that's like 28% faster than it was in the previous generation. Speaking of RAM, 16 gigs should be the default baseline, as well as having 24, 32, and 48 as paid upgrades. Apple reframed the entire value conversation instead of just raising the pricing without actually having any additional benefit. So we can expect the same story here. The M5 Mac Mini could likely start at $699 when you look at what you're getting. So 512 gigs of storage, 16 gigs of RAM. I don't think that's an unreasonable trade-off, but you let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, while the specs sound great, it doesn't mean that this is an automatic upgrade for those of you who are out there. Stick with me for a few minutes to find out who should buy, and more importantly, who should not. Now, the advice here is not identical for every person watching this. If you have a M1 Mac Mini, maybe even an Intel Mac Mini, you're better off waiting the CPU, the GPU upgrades, the SSD speeds, the increases in AI, which you absolutely don't have today. This is the clearest use case for waiting, because you've waited this long. A few days or a few weeks is not going to make this significant difference unless you are getting a tremendous deal on the M4 Mac Mini, and you're really not going to know that till they announce the M5. So, I mean, you're going to wait anyways if you want to get a better deal. Same thing with the M2 Mac Mini. I would wait until at least they announce the M5, so then you can figure out which is better for you than performance increases or saving money on the M4 Mac Mini like a previous generation. But you're probably going to have a hard time finding a previous generation M4 at a discount because of the supply constraint that's just surrounding this. And if you have an M4 Mac Mini, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that device unless you are computationally constrained where you need to have something that's in the M5. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. Maybe the GPU performance increases would be something compelling enough. That's all going to come out when we have the device in hands and we can see what it's compared to or how it performs compared to the M4. This is the M4 Pro, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, but all that's going to come out. So get subscribed if you want to see those type of tests in terms of performance and how they change generation over generation. Now, here's the framework that I use, and I think it applies very cleanly here. If your current machine is failing you, like it's slow, it's crashing, it can't run the software that you need, buy what is available and don't look back, right? Waiting for a product that hasn't shipped to solve a problem that you have right now in this moment is not a strategy. It's kind of like a hope and a prayer. But if your current setup is functional, if you're upgrading for performance reasons, if you're buying a second machine, you have a desk setup that you're trying to build, I think that there is no reason why you cannot buy the M4 Mac Mini, assuming that you could find one at a good price that's available, right? That's really the supply constraint that we're talking about with this device. The M5 Mac Mini is days, maybe weeks away by the most credible estimates. And I would say that the wait is almost going to be worth it. The Mac Mini is probably one of the best value machines that Apple has in its lineup. Even if they get a $100 price increase, I still think that the value to performance that you're going to get from the Mac Mini is still outstanding. Yes, you're getting double the storage, faster RAM, double the SSD speed. You're getting Wi-Fi 7 and really CPU, GPU performance on a chip that is meaningfully ahead of anything that's on the market today. It's not really necessarily a price increase that you can't absorb. It is a value reframe, and that's getting a machine on the latest generation that matters more on something that you're going to own for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, probably longer than that. Most Mac Mini people have a Mac Mini that's at least several years old. If you have one, let me know how long you've had it down in the comments below. But in all reality, this is where I land. Don't buy the Mac Mini right now unless you absolutely need it, not because it's bad, because right now there's something on the immediate short-term horizon that is a genuine, meaningful upgrade that you'll be able to realize. If this video saved you from a purchase that you would have second-guessed the moment that the M5 dropped, let me know down in the comments below. I make this type of content all the time, so get subscribed if you want to see more content like this. My name is Mike, and I will see you guys at WWDC, which starts on Monday.